YouTube, what's cracking, peeps? What's going on, man? Quick little video here tonight. I actually got a comment on the video that caught my attention, and I wanted to read it to y'all and discuss it. It was a comment left by Dreaming Code, and I'm going to read to y'all his comment, or her comment. It started off, hey Toddy, I just started wholesaling also. I have one under contract and made an offer on another. Do you let the seller know you are really trying to wholesale the property, or will be assigning the contract? Or do you just make your offer? Great question. Great question. Great question, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it's kind of a complicated answer. So I'm gonna try to answer this as best as I can, and I hope I make some sense along the way. When you wholesaling, this is almost like the chicken and the egg. When you're talking to a seller, you're negotiating with a seller. You're in the process of signing a contract, a purchase agreement with the seller. A lot of times, this situation, let's say if you got a kind of a, I guess I'll call it a standard wholesale deal. Maybe you got a vacant house, or maybe you got a situation where the seller lives away from the property. A situation like that, it's going to be a lot more easier for you to play the role as the total end buyer in this entire transaction, you know, in the entire wholesale deal. The reason I say it'll be easier for you to play that role of the ultimate end buyer is because if a house is vacant, maybe no one's living in there, or maybe if the seller lives out of town, it's a lot more easier and a lot more convenient for you to go in and out that house at your own convenience. Especially if you got the key to the property and lockbox out there, which you definitely should get on pretty much all your wholesale deals, if all possible. But a situation like that, you can go and come as you go. You definitely want to put yourself in position to be the end buyer in the customer's eyes. And that's really easier said than done, because a lot of this situation really gonna depend on the situation and the conversation and rapport that you have with your customer. All of that is gonna play a part in this. Sometimes when you're signing a contract, or sometimes just before, maybe even after you sign a contract with a seller, a lot of times they'll just come out and ask you, hey, are you gonna be the buyer, or are you going out to find a buyer? If they proposition that to you and you know 100% that you are not going to buy the property, you're going to wholesale it, then you kind of want to let them know that, you know, in a very industry type of conversation. So, for example, let's say someone asked me that question, hey, Toddy, are you going to be the person buying the house, or are you going out to find a buyer? I would say, well, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm an actual investor myself personally. So if I'm not the person that actually buys this house, it'll be one of my fellow investors or one of my partners that'll buy it. But nonetheless, you know, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that we get this taken care of at the price that you and I agreed upon. Something like that, you know, kind of dress it up like that sometimes, because in some way, excuse me. Because a lot of times, a good bit of times, they will ask you stuff like that. You know, they will ask you about, you know, are you going to be buying a property, or are you going to try to go out and find somebody to buy the property for you? Now, most seasoned investors you talk to are coaches or or mentors for wholesaling. A lot of them are going to tell you, no, you are always the end buyer 100% of the time. You are the buyer. You're the buyer. You're the buyer 100% of the time. No exceptions. And from my experience, I'm only just talking from my experience. From my experience, that can't always be the case in every situation. Sometimes you'll have situations where you're working on a lead, or you may be in the process of getting ready to sign a contract, and maybe you've already signed the contract, And the seller, they may still very well live in that house. You know, all their furniture is still there, all their clothes are still there. So a situation like that, it's not going, you won't be able to really control showing that house at your convenience. You're typically going to always have to reach out to the seller and, you know, make sure it's convenient for them, set an appointment up with the seller and your buyer, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if they're still living there and you've brought 3 or 4 people over to look at the house, you know, that kind of situation is kind of hard to continue to play the role of the end buyer. So in a situation like that, you may have to have that conversation with the customer and let them know what's going on. If you do have to have that conversation with the customer, don't tell them that you're a wholesaler, you got a contract with them and you're going to sell your contract to somebody else. You don't want to really go in that detail with it as far as trying to explain wholesaling, because more than likely you're going to confuse them and you're going to spook them and they're going to probably back out on you or not even sign the contract with you anyway. So in a situation like that, you know, and if you know going beforehand that you're going to have to bring people in and out as far as buyers to look at the house, you know, or what have you, you know, kind of sort of have that conversation a little bit with them. You know, just let them know that I'm an investor. And, oh, another thing, before I go there, always refer to yourself as an investor. Don't never tell them you're the middleman or nothing like that, because if you come at them talking about you the middleman, you kind of lost a lot of power in this transaction, because now they're going to look at you as what? You're just the middleman. You know what I'm saying? Where's the guy with the money? I want to talk to him. So always refer to yourself as an investor. So you want to have a conversation with them, something like, hey, Mr. Scott, I'm an investor myself. We buy houses cash. You know, we close them fast, and I also work with fellow investors as well. So I just want you to know, as part of this process, myself and some of my fellow investors, my partners, you know, will come by periodically, because I have to show them the house as well, make sure everything is right as far as the repairs go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want you to know ahead of time that I'll bring some of my partners by here. Before we even do that, I'll always contact you a day in advance to make sure it's going to be a convenient time for you. So that's kind of sort of the type of conversation that you do want to have with them. Again, don't break down the whole, I'm a wholesaler, I'm flipping the contract to this guy, blah, 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 blah. Don't have that conversation with him. You want to be upfront with them, but you don't want to give them everything. You know what I mean? You don't want to give them so much that you overwhelm them, and like I say, you just spook them out of the deal. So those situations will come across, and really, y'all, like I said in the beginning, this is a real kind of a complicated question to answer, because a lot of this is going to depend on, like I say, the situation and you and your customer, and like the rapport you got built up with them. You know, if they're motivated enough, it really won't matter. It really won't matter. But this is a critical conversation. You know, this conversation could make or break some deals. So you got to be prepared for it and know how to answer it. And you got to also know how to keep your customer confident that you'll be able to deliver on the promise that you're making them to buy this house at the price that you guys have agreed upon. So you really never know until you get there. At least I don't. Most times than not, you know, I am playing the role of the end buyer. But when I'm talking to my customer, you know, face to face before we sign the contract, or even after we sign the contract, when around the time when I'm talking to them about the keys in the lockbox, you know, I may say something like, "Hey, Mr. Scott, I will need an extra key, you know, because I'll be bringing my partners by to come by and see it. My contractors, you know, I'm probably gonna have my electrician come out here also and check out the wiring and the electrical components. So I'm just gonna place this key in the lockbox, and here's the combination code. So, you know, if you need to come in and out, you can come in and out at your convenience as well. But, you know, just to let you know, I will be bringing my partners over here. You know, we're just going to be, kind of checking out things, inspecting the house. Something of that nature with them. But again, remain confident in your delivery with this. As you start doing deals, you start talking to customers, you start signing contracts, you'll kind of start to pick up on when and when not you may be able to play the role of the end buyer. Now, if you're in a situation where you got your own cash in the bank and you may or may not buy the house that you're wholesaling, then you are fine. You know, you can just always play the role. Well, yeah, you know, I'm going to buy the house. If I don't buy it, one of my fellow investors will come in and buy it. You know, and you're good both ways. But that can be like a real tricky situation. And I'm sorry, y'all, it's really kind of tough for me to answer the question directly because a lot of it just depends on that situation, you know, as I continue to say throughout this video. So it's really hard to tell. Most times than not, though, you do want to play that role of the person that's going to actually eventually close on that house. But you can't all the time, or at least from my experience, you know, you can't always play that role. But as you know, get more experience, you know, get more familiar with doing this, you'll kind of pick up on it, you know, what kind of conversations to have, when to have the conversation. But I will tell you this, you're truly motivated people, 98% of the time, they don't care. They just want that check to be there on the date that you said it will be there. And that's how it is going to be most times. But occasionally, you know, you will have to deal with this question. You will have to deal with this scenario and also this situation of, hey, are you buying a house or somebody else is going to buy it? One of my earlier deals I had with an older gentleman, I signed a contract with him, and, you know, I was marketing the house, and he just called me one day. He's like, you know, you find a buyer for it yet? I was like, no, I haven't found a buyer for it yet, but, you know, trust me, I'm working real hard behind the scenes on it, you know, and we should have this wrapped up real shortly. And I guess he just kind of figured out, like, hey, this young man ain't buying a house. He looking for a buyer for me, and he was cool with it. You know what I'm saying? He had no problems with it. You know, and it was a vacant house, and he lived in like 2 towns over, but he didn't have no problem. He's just so motivated. Scooby-Doo could have bought the house. He didn't care. He just wanted it off his hands. And that's just how it is. You know, I know I'm rambling, and I know I probably really didn't truly answer Dreaming Code's question, but it's a question that's real compelling, and it's definitely a situation that you're gonna really have to deal with. So just be prepared for that. You know, as far as your end buyers, a good terminology that I use for my end buyers, I'll call them, hey, I'm gonna bring my funding partner by here. I'm gonna bring my partner by here. I'm gonna bring my contractor by here to take a look at the property. You know, something of that nature when you're referring to your end buyer. Unless you guys just already got that understanding and that rapport built up, I wouldn't say I'm going to bring my end buyer by here. But if you guys have already had that conversation up front, then by all means, go with it. But I just really want to chime in on that question. And, you know, I hope you guys took something from that. And I really hope I made sense. I feel like on my side, I'm just rambling. So hopefully my answer made sense. If not, feel free to ask me questions about it in the comments, and I'll try to further clarify what I'm attempting to say right now. But that's it, y'all. Just really wanted to expand on that question. Shout out Dreaming Code. But I'm going to go ahead and check out here, y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next video. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Definitely make sure you subscribe. If you took something from this video, share it with somebody. Share it with your friend, your cousin, your girlfriend, grandma, granddaddy, Uncle Mike, whoever. But follow me on Instagram as well. I'm at Instagram, TIDY_Jones, Tiddy_Jones. Y'all be good. I'm out of here. Peace.